All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to All In on Real Estate. I'm your host, Aaron Goins. The reason I started this real estate meetup is because when I was in the military, no one in my circle was talking about real estate, and I wanted to have a meetup where people could talk about real estate and build generational wealth for them and their families. So I'm very, very excited for our guest speaker today, Ms. Cindy Byler. How you doing, Cindy?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I think we talked about me coming on like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, well, you know, yeah, I've always envisioned you be on here. You were one of many that I really wanted to be on here, so I'm very, very excited that we got a chance to do this in year one, the meetup. So
special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I say that October is the month for women, and April was too, but this month is all women as well. All women guest speakers. So you are one of many of this month. So every person on here is a woman guest speaker. So I guess it's me starting to come an all women guest speaker kind of meetup.
Very nice.
Yeah. So all right. So let's start from the beginning. How did you start with real estate?
How did I start? So I think some of us have military backgrounds. So it came from my husband's military career and the lifestyle that comes with it. So I married my high school sweetheart. We've been together since I was 17. He was an ROTC. I knew like what I was signing up for, but do you really? And so we got married. I realized quickly, even though I invested a lot of money in very expensive pieces of paper, AKA degrees, it was hard to carry on my career when you're moving less than 2 years on average. And so we've moved a lot. One time it was with PCS 3 times in 3 years. That was CONUS, OCONUS, back to CONUS. So it's been interesting and crazy all at once. I was a music teacher, not the most secure job to begin with. You have to move. I've been certified in 3 different states. So you have to get recertified. It costs money. It takes time. You can't be like, hey, Uncle Sam, do you mind moving me in March when they're interviewing for the next year and not November when we're in the middle of the school year and I've lost out on a job? So I realized that quickly because of the 3 moves in 3 years and my husband being in a really hard program, I became a stay-at-home mom, and it's not anything that I had planned to do. It was just a season. And in that time, we went from 2 incomes to 1. And I was like, okay, I need to figure stuff out. We've got some debt, nothing crazy. I mean, normal life, college debt. We owed money on a car. We had a car note, and then some commercial debt only because we paid for our own wedding. So we had about $60,000 in debt total. We followed the Dave Ramsey program, paid off that $60K in less than 3 years on my husband's 1 income. He was probably making about $60K a year at the time. And so it really set the foundation for discipline and my passion for personal finance. And once we started getting serious about budgeting, I felt like we got a raise. It was like, oh, we're being more disciplined in where our money is going. And got up the emergency fund after paying off all the debt. And then it came time to the investing part. And something with Dave Ramsey's advice in terms of investing, it did not sit well with me. And I was like, I need to learn more. I'll never knock him because I believe his methods apply to a lot of people in good ways, especially those who need to learn discipline in their finances. But when it comes to investing, we kind of graduated, I would say, from that. And I found the Financial Independence Retire Early group, the FIRE group, and I saw that most people who were experiencing success and doing really well were invested in real estate. And I was like, I need a piece of that pie. So it also solved the problem that I could take my quote unquote job wherever I go, as long as we did it long distance. That was inevitable anyways. And we realized, because we did buy a house when we were stationed in Kansas, and we had really good property managers. I hardly heard anything. The rent came in. It was really smooth sailing. I was like, you know what? With the right people on your team, this is possible. Let's do this. from an investment standpoint. So when we moved back to Texas, I accidentally landed a job. Apparently they need music teachers here, and I was just applying to be a sub. And within 24 hours, I got like principals begging me to come into work. And I'm just like, whoa, full-time, my son just turned a year. We came from Hawaii. Like, this was not in the plans, but my husband and I sat down and I was like, look, I've been bitter. I need this passive income. Like if I save all our money, my money that we haven't needed, and we invest it in real estate, that'll create passive income. That's something I can own because it's important to me. Like he could care less if I'm bringing in income, but it's important to me. I know I have value to give. And then it doesn't matter where the Army sends us because I've got that and I can feel good about it. So that was back in 2018. So I spent quite a few months working. We saved up money. We almost bought one deal, but I'm like a super creeper when it comes to doing my due diligence and finding like the neighbors on Facebook and talking to them, and some details came up and we pulled out of that real quick. It was in January, end of December, beginning of January, we were in town, in our hometown. We decided to invest in our hometown. And a deal came up. It was off market, duplex and a triplex for 50K. And I was like, okay, let's do it. But it had to be cash. And I don't know how many 25-year-olds have 50K laying around, but we had about 25 of it. And I was like, oh, I need the other 25. So we tried to get a personal loan. We had really great credit, but that was too much for a personal loan. And then it was too little for a mortgage. So we're in this awkward gray area. And it forced me to explore private money. And so I had to reach out to a father figure who, offered it. Like, if you ever need anything, let me know. That was the scariest call of my life. Like, thought I was going to throw up. And he ended up giving us the $25,000. He's like, how's 4% sound? I'll send the check tomorrow. I was like, what? So I just want to encourage y'all, when it comes to private money, really think about who's the risk. Who's the risk? It's you. All right, we already showed that we had the discipline to be good with our finances. I educated myself in real estate. This wasn't something like I was doing on a whim. The numbers worked. There was great margins. And at the end of the day, I don't care if I have to take on 2 or 3 more jobs, I'm going to make my payments. And also, when you're going to somebody asking for money, do not ever come up to them as though you're asking for a favor. That is the worst thing you can do. You are presenting an opportunity to them. Those banks are not paying any of them, probably more than 0.5% in their savings account. It's so easy for us to offer way more than that. So, 4% was what he offered. That was cheap. Nowadays, I usually come out with 10% and start from there because our margins are great. So anyways, we bought that property. We ended up, it was BRRRR. We do the BRRRR method. Ended up rehabbing them, started with the duplex, put $33,000 into that. So 50K for the 5 doors, 10K a door. So $20,000 acquisition, $33,000 in the renovation. So 53 for the duplex, and it was renting for $1,500 a month when we were done with it. Now, can I see, like, it was show of hands, who has like military affiliations in here? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'll take the time to mention this. How we, you got to get creative in this as a real estate investor. And so with finances, we were debt free. That was great. But the question was, how are we going to fund this? And so there's this lovely benefit called the Service Member Civil Relief Act, SCRA. And it's law. Like, credit card companies cannot charge you more than 6% interest on your credit card that you had prior to becoming active duty. And it just so happened that my husband had one of those left that he got in college. And so we called up, we sent in his LES to Chase, and they're like, oh, by the way, we're really generous. We actually do 4%. So perfect. So we get into this this investment, and we realized it'd be really nice if we could up the maximum on this credit card, like raise it as much as we can, because 4% at simple interest. I don't know if y'all know the difference between simple and amortized. Simple is a lot cheaper. We can get our materials from that, and then we'll cash flow the labor. And so we called in, we're like, hey, can we raise this? Well, my husband's Equifax or something was blocked because of the data breach. And they're like, well, we can't, but you've been doing this travel hacking and you actually got approved for other credit cards through us, one of which was $25,000, no idea why. We can transfer balances over to this one. I was like, what? So you mean this $25,000 credit card that was sitting at like 18% interest, I can move all of that over to this 4% card? I'm like, yeah. Now, mind you, they're all Chase, they're all like kind, but we started transferring balances or maximums, and all of a sudden we had a $47,000 credit card at 4%. So we've been using that for our materials, and then cash flowing the labor, and eventually the rental income was coming in, and it's been good. So in March it'll be 3 years since we've been investing. We're up to 6 properties, 13 units total. Once we finish, and we do have 2 Airbnb units in Kansas City that I'm partnered up with. It's an arbitrage situation. So once we finish the property we're on now, rental income will be above $10,000 a month. And it's been like 2.5 years, y'all. That's way more money than I made as a teacher. I can feel good about that. So I just talked forever. Are there any questions?
Okay. That's awesome. That's awesome. So what is your biggest takeaway for you as far as going from your being in debt to now having not an empire of real estate? So I mean, what is your biggest takeaway that you can say to people, inspire people?
Sure. So initially, real estate was a means to an end for me. It's like I needed a job that I could take with us wherever we go. I need something to do. I need something to own, because I feel like a little puppy dog following my husband around. So it started out as a means to an end, but it turned out to be so much more than that to me. Like we're able to make an impact. We can. So not to get too personal, but I grew up in poverty. And I remember walking the streets of this town that we're now buying up and fixing up and all that, and collecting pop bottles, because in New York you get 5 cents per pop bottle. And that's how my basic needs were met. And I just remember feeling so worthless because of my situation. And I know that people in that town easily feel that way too. And I'm here to come in and challenge the status quo, raise the standard in terms of living conditions. There's so many landlords out there who are retiring and they don't give a crap. They're just sucking everything, that house is worth out of it. And I want the tenants there to know that they don't have to accept crap, that they are worthy. So all that to say, when it comes down to actually making an impact, this one saying, put the people first and the money will follow, could not be truer. I've seen that happen time and time again. And the impact, when there's purpose behind your work, then you can, the opportunities are endless. So that's been my biggest takeaway. It's really been so rewarding to be able to provide these jobs. By God's grace, we've employed 2 contractors full time for the last 3 years. And now we're more than that. Like I had 7 guys at the job site today. No deep pockets here. We're nobody special. We went out there, we got educated, and we took action.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So same kind of question, but as somebody being in the military, I know that spouses are the backbone of anywhere. They do a lot of sacrificing and things like that. It can be overwhelming. I know plenty of spouses who hold it down for their families, but still, it's one of the toughest jobs ever to be a spouse and then also have a job. So what would you say to your fellow spouses? Because I mean, we've seen a lot of success stories, and also we know spouses who have struggled. So what would you tell your fellow spouses?
Well, that's actually kind of part of something that I want to do too. Like one of my goals for this year was positively impact 10 military spouses. And that's pretty broad. So many ways I could do that. I took some pictures, like family pictures. Family pictures aren't something that we do. We don't make time for really because we're just so busy. But for me, I had trouble finding myself in this lifestyle, in the hustle and the bustle of the moving, his career, having children. We really are the backbone. And so I just want to encourage other spouses to know that you are more than just somebody who, is following your spouse around and supporting them. Like you are fully capable of owning something and finding worth through it. I see so many spouses sort of just settling and feeling like that's not possible, but it really is. I was a music teacher. I went and got my master's in health administration, which I'm totally not using right now, but that was in support of my spouse who does work in healthcare and potentially will open up his own business one day. That was plan B. Real estate, plan C. Fortunately, plan C has worked out. Did I think this was my purpose in life? Not at all. So yes, I'm on the meeting, honey.
That didn't start till 7.
Well, it started already. Sorry, y'all. So I'm on plan C, and that's okay because I've learned that my identity doesn't have to be attached to my career per se. It has to come down to what my purpose is and what kind of value can I bring to the table. And it's been so fulfilling. So definitely I would tell other spouses, find that thing that will give you purpose.
Great words. Great words. Sorry about that. So where are you going at to your future? What are your future plans for you and your real estate business?
Yeah. So last year, right, we're 2021, part of this year even. So this is how I know Lawrence, because I got in on Brian Briscoe's call a few times. I took a little detour in pursuing commercial real estate, learning about it, networking. But after almost a year of that, something wasn't clicking for me. And I realized I was trying to be someone I'm not, at least in this season. Maybe later when I want to be a lot more passive, which we're coming up to that. But I find so much value in adding value to our hometown and making an impact there. And so that really is my future. Especially in 2022, I plan to do less deals, but let them be of more like, they're going to be home runs. I haven't had any losses yet, but I've had home runs and I've had some not so home runs. And now I know what it takes to get those home runs. There's going to be lighter renovation lifts and making a bigger impact. Like I plan to be the Chip and Joanna Gaines of my hometown. We're bringing value. I'm trying to chill out on the acquisitions. Honestly, it's hard for me to say no to a good deal. So I'm hoping to keep it at about one house per quarter next year and turn them around and get that cash flow coming. And then from there, I'm already mentoring somebody who wants to be a real estate investor in the area. She's kind of also taken on the job as my assistant, boots on ground. And so I'm hoping it'd be really cool. We meet up weekly and I'm teaching her the ropes and stuff. It'd be really cool, if I could come along as that private lender that I once had and do that for her, because this has to be this has to be bigger than me. If I truly want to make an impact, I can't be selfish. I can't be hiding all these deals. I mean, I'm not out there screaming my zip code because I want to protect our town. There's some really amazing returns. I'm not afraid to share that, but you have to bring something to the table. You have got to be a part of this mission. And so I'm hoping that I can carry it on in that manner.
Okay. I love everything you're talking about. So let's I got like 2 more questions I open up for the attendees to ask. What is there any deal that really stands out that really said it made you say, you know what, I like this real estate. I'm gonna really stick with this real estate thing.
Any particular deal? I think so my specialty is finding off-market deals. I love it. Actually, I have a class launching next month now on finding off-market deals. It's so much fun. And I'm not opposed to off-market deal or on-market deals. Like in my area, those work too. But I love helping distressed sellers. And another thing that brings value to me. And while I was home this past summer, I had a few minutes before going to a birthday party. I'm never early. But we were early then, and my kids are in the back seat, and I tell my kids what to be looking for: long grass, no curtains. They usually like to look at the houses that need help. And so we'll drive around and be like, Mommy, that house needs help. That house needs help. And so I came across this one house. There's a big old dumpster outside. And so that tells me one of two things. Either there was some really crappy tenants there and the landlord is distressed and trying to clean up after their mess, which is very possible here in COVID times, or another investor bought it and is adding value to it. But it's up to me to try to figure that out, right? So I'm driving by slowly, I'm writing down the address, and the neighbor comes out looking at me all sideways. And I was just like, okay, got to tell him what I'm doing here before I get the cops called on me. And so I was like, hey, my name's Cindy. I'm here I'm a real estate investor in the area, sort of looking for my next deal. Do you know what the story is at this house? And I'm telling you, neighbors are gold. And if you get the right ones, they're going to spill the tea and tell you all the things. So get comfortable with making conversation with complete strangers. He's like, well, somebody bought that and they're fixing it up. And as I'm talking, this is just a few houses down from one of my houses. I was like, oh yeah, I toured that house actually. It was just on the phone because I'm a long distance investor. Now it's coming back to me. He's like, well, actually my sister, she happened to lose 2 husbands to cancer in the last 4 years. And she owns a couple properties. She can't afford to do this anymore. She just wants to live her own life and be free of tenants. And I'm like, oh, wonderful. Here's my business card. And then going back to, put the people first and the money will follow. I went back later that night after the birthday party and we talked for like a solid hour, small town talk. And turns out we had connections and the camaraderie is great. And so I didn't hear from his sister initially. I think I was like 1 or 2 weeks in before she finally called me. And it turned out that her brother, who I gave the business card to, kept bugging her to get a hold of me. And so I did buy a duplex from her actually for $20,000, put $5,000 on the downstairs. Like it really wasn't that bad. She had some tenants mess it up and all that, but it wasn't bad compared to what I've been doing. And the upstairs was already renovated 3 years ago, rented out. So I flipped that baby in 8 days, $25,000 all in. It's easily going to appraise for $60K. And so I'll see about 40 of that at least after 70% LTV and closing costs. So I'm already making money just on the sale, but let's not forget I'm getting $1,350 per month on it. So really sweet deal. These deals are out there, but I think the most rewarding part was I kept her involved in this process. This really was her way. And it was important to me too. Like I'll never forget her going in to show me the downstairs apartment and she found her husband's hammer. This is the apartment that her husband poured so much of himself into. And it was important to me to make sure that I honored him in finishing that too. And so she got to come for the reveal and the tears were just flowing. And it's so fulfilling to know that, you can make an impact in that way. You can come in and save the day. I just really enjoy helping distressed sellers. And that one in particular really hit home for me. And I mean, other deals, there's been unwanted inheritances. One was the result of a divorce. I literally bought a house for $7,000, 4-bedroom, 1-bath house. And you know what? She just got the house from her divorce situation. She knew that it was worth 51K. She knew that she was given $44,000 of equity up, but there was a foundation problem. Code enforcement was trying to charge her for, the dangerous porch that was falling apart out front. It was sitting empty. She's paying taxes on an empty house. She just wanted it gone. I'm always out for a win-win situation. I was going to win. She was going to win. Like, let's go. And then it rents for $900 a month. So those deals are out there. They really are. You just need to know how to find them. And it's just so rewarding when you get to kind of come in and save the day. I've never had any seller have remorse in a transaction that we've done.
Wow. A lot of gems. Wow. All right. Final question for open up for the attendees. Like I said before, you are one of 5 women this week that are speaking. Now, we see a lot of credible women in real estate lately, but there's still a shortage of women, especially investors. We see a lot of great agents, but not as many investors. What would you say to women who might feel on the fence, like, I don't know, should I get in this? What should I do? Like, what would you say to aspire them to be an investor?
Sure. Well, first of all, you're just as worthy and just as capable. Jump in. Sure, it's a male-dominated area, but I mean, just don't focus on the naysayers and those who are like, well, you're gonna face these challenges. Of course, you're gonna face these challenges. You're gonna face these challenges like anywhere you work. You just gotta rise to the occasion. Okay. You got to show up confident, get knowledgeable, know what you're talking about. When we're doing these renovations, when I'm in town, I'm working alongside my contractors. I can do pretty much everything except plumbing and electrical. And because I'm willing to get down on their level and be more than just a paycheck every Friday, and I know what the heck I'm talking about, I'm respected in that manner. So you just need to know, how to rise to the occasion and make it happen, and just be confident in yourself. Like, I don't believe that we should be so focused on our gender and the situation. Like, just show up.
I understand that. So let me open up to the attendees. I do want to ask one person who is overseas. I don't know if she's, but I always like to open up to either her or Kenneth. But Claudia, are you here? Please ask the first question.
It up. Oh, so well, sorry. It's trying to multitask. It's always hard, but no, I'm sure you do that a lot. But thank you for sharing your story. Your the background and everything is so interesting, and I think we're like in similar positions as far as like having military spouses and then trying to do something and then moving around. It's so challenging. It's just challenging, and it's awesome to see somebody else doing it successfully. And so props to you. I don't have any questions. I'm sorry you cut me off guard, but thank you for being here.
Claudia, if I may add on to that, for those of you who are involved in real estate and deal with the frequent moves, initially, I viewed these moves as a huge challenge and obstacle in my real estate investing. And I was like, I don't want to be that, military family who buys one house everywhere they go and you're spread all throughout the map. I actually love investing in my hometown because, when we use that precious leave time and we go home for weddings, funerals, whatever it might be, we're showing up to our business, and that's a write-off for us. But I went to a networking event in South Florida once, and I was talking to this guy and I was telling him, man, like, we're only in this market 2 to 3 years at most. It's really hard for me to, do this when that is the case. And he's like, wait a second. So you're telling me you moved to an area physically for 2 to 3 years. He goes, that's enough time to get to know the market, get involved, build a solid team for when you're going to leave, and then manage it at the next place. Then the army, the military pays for you to move somewhere else and get to know that market. And said, he goes, that sounds like the perfect opportunity for me. And I was like, whoa, just mind blown. I'm like, this thing that I have viewed as my biggest obstacle really could be my biggest opportunity. And so I just wanted to throw that out there. Mindset is everything. And that was a really cool way to look at it.
That's cool right there. So the next person, now let everybody else ask questions, but the next person, you and him have something in common. You both were interviewees on ADPI podcast. So Mrs. 1031, please take it away.
Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, and thank you, Cindy. Another great presentation. There's a question, like you sort of mentioned it to Claudia about some of the advantages of moving every couple of years. What are some of the tools that you've encountered that enable you to remotely manage that you come accustomed to? Because it used to be like, before internet, you had to have boots on the ground. But because you said you're in Kansas City, in New York, and then other places. What are some of the tools you're using to help you sort of manage this? Because I know Claudia's remote. Lawrence doesn't know it yet, but he's going to be remote because he's investing in North Carolina. A bunch of us are out-of-state investors. What are some of the tools that you have used that you found most beneficial?
So I'm not gonna lie, I need to improve in this area. So Kansas City financing there too. I recognize your name. I used a self-directed IRA for that. So I'm literally cutting the checks and somebody else is doing all the work, and it's beautiful. I attend a monthly meeting and I want more of that. Airbnbs give really great returns too. So, so one tool would be other people, right? I did have a property manager for about half my units up until last week. I'm in the midst of assuming management. Not that I wanted to. Unfortunately, in small town USA, you don't have a lot of, I just said USAA, a military person would say that. But I didn't have a lot of options. And so I couldn't find a really good broker. In New York, you have to be a broker to manage properties for other people. I just couldn't. So it just came down to like, it's me or it's no one. I got to make this happen. But in terms of bringing in rents, you have to be flexible and offer a lot of different options to include. Usually I have them transfer it to my bank account. There's a bank there locally. Some of them are members there, so I teach them how to just transfer the money over. We've done PayPal. Let's see what else we do. I know there's Venmo. I haven't run across that yet, but they seem to be really liking PayPal and just taking it to my bank or so forth. But if you can make it so that they can do it on their phone, you're more likely to be paid on time. So definitely encourage that. I do have people boots on ground. Like when I find a property off market and I want to look at it, I have them go there and we're videoing it. I know what to look for. Hey, look under the sink, make sure there's no, watermarks there. Let's look up top. Do you see any cracks? That indicates foundation. So I'm leading that through that. Contractors are a really big deal for me. Maintenance guys, make sure you have a Rolodex of a lot of, like, more than one for sure, like 2 or 3 people at least in each area. So I need to work on that though, Kenneth. My toolbox needs some work.
Do you know Megan Great House?
No, but I'm writing. Is it AG? I feel like maybe I have seen her name.
I can hook you guys up together. She's great.
Yeah.
She was a guest speaker on this meetup.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And she does like remote. She does both remote and property management, and she uses a couple of tools too. So she might be a good person to connect with.
I'm learning about electronic locks right now. It's constantly a thing that I'm doing in learning. So more than anything, I manage these renovations. These are like down to the stud, constant renovations. And I do that from 1,600 miles away. So one thing I will say, like Home Depot Pro is amazing. So I can have contractors go to Home Depot and pick up whatever they might need. Like, I don't know every single shark bite they need. So I'm not going to fill that cart all the time online. They just go there, they fill the cart, they go to the pro desk, they put my phone number in. And up until recently, that military discount automatically like went. That was really nice. And then they do a text to confirm. So I get a text message. Usually I'd have them call me, hey, I'm going to Home Depot, so I'm ready. I get a text message with a hyperlink. I push it, and then I can see everything that they're buying. I once had a guy try to buy a candy bar. So at least you're aware of what they're buying, and you can be like, hey, what's these 2x4s for? What are you doing today? So I have to approve those purchases, and then it gets charged to my credit card. So I don't have to worry about them carrying a business credit card or any of that. So I'm able to do that from afar, and that's been super helpful. Lowe's has a similar program as well. I use Home Depot all the time. Any other questions?
Cindy, how you doing? Great presentation. Thank you for the great information. What do you, when you say you look at a lot of off-market deals and dealing with a lot of direct to owner, what tools are you using for that?
So I know a lot of people, like, especially if they're in wholesaling, they're like mailers. And I'm just like, no, that's not my style. Here's the thing. That's what everybody's doing, right? So what are you going to do to give yourself the edge? I don't know if y'all have read Think and Grow Rich, but there's this lovely story called 3 Feet from Gold. And it talks about this man who, bought this Colorado mine, and he's mining and mining, trying to find the gold. And eventually he gives up and he sells his stuff to this junk man. Well, this junk man went and sought some professional help. He got an engineer, and the engineer's like, right here, this is where you dig. And so that place was 3 feet away from where the last man stopped. And sure enough, he struck gold. And so my thing is, what is it going to take for you to strike gold in real estate? What is going to give you that edge? And first of all, put the people first. The money will follow. Also, become a professional. You're going to have to be a professional problem solver. Ain't nobody getting off market deals unless there's a problem. There's going to either be a distressed seller, a distressed property, or a mixture of the both. Otherwise, they're going to take it to the MLS, and they should take it to the MLS. There's no reason that they shouldn't. And so for me, I want to find those problems, and I want to help solve them. And so I think about the problems. Well, what kind of problems are going to, be that I'm going to consider? Well, divorce, unwanted inheritance. A really big one right now is disgruntled landlords. A lot of people, there's been a lot of hype. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of investors just getting started. They think it's cool. It's all the rage. I can do what they do on HGTV. They buy 1 or 2 properties. COVID hits them in the face. And they're like, oh crap, this is not what I thought it was. I'm telling you, it takes some serious stubbornness to survive as a real estate investor. I can't tell you the amount of things I've had to overcome. And so a lot of them are just ready to get out. And you know what? What did they want at the end of the day? They want a cash flow. It's a really great opportunity to create an owner finance situation. I can give you that cash flow you always wanted without the toilets, tenants, and termites. Let's make a deal. You can find those disgruntled tenants online. There's this lovely thing called the Freedom of Information Act. There's so much public records out there. And you can go and see where the eviction court cases are filed. You can see who the defendant is or whatever, basically who the landlord is. Then you go to public county property records. You look up who that landlord is. Do they own a couple, or do they own a ton and this is just another day in the life? Skip trace them, reach out to them, go for it. There's also probate cases, same thing. If you figure out the Index C system, then you can see which probate case was filed just yesterday. And guess who doesn't know about it yet? The bank, the obituary. Those those lists that are created, they're coming from, those obituaries. And so you can be one step ahead of the process. And other things are like expensive repairs. So I go through a whole list of professionals that can help you come up with leads, one of which is contractors, and specifically ones that deal with expensive repairs such as foundation issues or septic remediation. It's one thing if something goes wrong with your personal home compared to something going wrong with an investment home. When something goes wrong with your personal home, that hurts real hard because that's a liability. But when it comes to an investment property, that's an asset, and you might be more willing and able to put that money in. So if somebody's getting told, man, this foundation issue is going to cost you like $30K, they might be looking to find another house. So talk to the contractors who do that. Hey, if you ever hear something along the lines like, oh my gosh, I can't afford that, we might need to get a new house, send them my digits and I will pay you a finder's fee. Also be really loud about it. I invest in my hometown. I was a musician, and I had a band director say, if you're going to make a mistake, you make it loud and proud. And so I kind of take that and apply it to the way that I am as an investor. I didn't know if I was going to be successful in this, but I'm out there, I'm telling everybody, I'm putting it out into the universe, and I'm letting them know this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm trying to accomplish here. If you see any houses for sale, let me know. I'd be happy to give you a finder's fee. And this is what a finder's fee is, because a lot of them don't know. There is no standard out there, but that got me my $7,000 house. I had that lead within 30 minutes. My husband happened to be flying in for a wedding that weekend, and we made it happen. Also got some leads from going on Facebook Marketplace. Some of my own friends who know what I'm already doing replied to that because I didn't come out and say, hey, I'm looking to buy deals again. So that was a big thing. I always include a picture of me and my family. I want to make it personable. Here's my mission. Here's how you can help. Let's do this together. I've done classified in the newspaper because my avatar is retiring landlords. If I can tap into a retiring landlord, they're trying to offload what took them decades to build. And I want to take that on and want a whole portfolio, and they're also the people who are kind of they're neglecting their properties, which isn't a problem for me. And so yeah, anyways, those retiring landlords, they're not necessarily on Facebook or Twitter, or they're not necessarily utilizing those tools, but what are they doing? They're reading the newspaper. And if you leave your phone number there and they call you, you don't have to worry about any kind of cold calling because you already have a warm and or a hot lead. They've decided they're ready to sell property. And I got a lead on a whole entire portfolio once that way. It cost me $80 to do this advertisement for 2 months. And in the first week, somebody called, hey, I'm thinking about selling 1 or 2 of these properties. I was like, okay, cool. Give the address and let's, I'll look into it. Well, I went on public property records. You can look up it by the owner and you can see how many they own. Well, this man owned over 20 properties. So I called him up, I'm like, what about these other ones? And he's like, what? How do you know I own these other properties? He was all creeped out and stuff. And I'm just like, well, I know more than you think I do. I know how to utilize this tool. And that helped me because I look young and stuff and like I don't know what I'm doing. And so I was this close to having him convinced to give that to me, owner financing, $1 million portfolio, 100K down, the rest 900K. Because you know what his problem was? You know why he didn't want to sell the rest of those? And this, again, putting the people first. This is his nest egg. And if he sells all of them at once, he is getting taxed so hard. So what is the solution to that? Well, I'm going to give it to you over time. Let me talk to your CPA. Let's figure something out. Okay, again, you want to be a professional problem solver, figure out where their pain points are. There's so many ways to creatively finance a deal, but think about what they need. Do they need cash up front right now? Do they just want some supplemental income? Do they need a mixture of the both? Maybe they have a little bit of debt and then also, want to work a little less. And so I want to encourage you to put yourself in their shoes, ask the questions, so that you can best serve them in the transaction as well. So I feel like I just rambled on.
Yeah, that's no. Thank you.
Yeah. Other professionals, the mailman, they know where the vacant properties are.
Mhm.
Code enforcement knows where the vacant properties are. They know who are neglecting it. When you're driving for dollars, look for those pink slips on the doors and on the windows. Landscapers, one of the telltale signs when you're driving for dollars is long grass. Well, guess who else is looking for long grass? Policemen. I bought a property on the auction for $20K, and it was just a few blocks from some of my other properties, but I had no idea that this happened to be the drug house and like in the drug area, because like that's what a few blocks did for me. And so I had to call because there's like nightly break-ins and ask for extra surveillance. And the policeman was like, you should have called me. If you don't know where the bad neighborhood is, I can tell you. And I was like, really? Like, just call you up and like, what do you think of this? And he's like, yeah. And what I realized is vacant properties are a problem for them. And so if I'm willing to take on that problem, I'm willing to deal with the nightly break-ins and screw in every single window shut, and turn that vacant property into a rental where they can't come and do their drug things. If I'm putting people in there, that's no longer a problem. So if you call a policeman and like, hey, I'm a local real estate investor, I understand that these vacant properties can be a problem for you in our community, but I would love to take on those properties, fix them up, rent them out, and solve that problem for you. Do you have any properties that you can, suggest to me? So lawyers, they're legitimately professional problem solvers. So they have clients going through things like quick moves or divorce or so forth. You probably have to have a relationship with them, but just know, like, hey, if you bring a lead my way, I can solve that issue and be willing to give you a finder's fee for it too. There's so many professionals out there. So I like to do things unconventionally. I'm not one for mailers. And to be honest, I'm not always looking for deals, because it seems like once I start looking, they just come to me. And it's because I'm doing things that other people aren't.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
No, that was pretty interesting. Funny enough, I think I consider myself kind of so I do send mailers, and I consider myself more of a kind of off market. I look to get leads from off market, and as I look back, only half my deals actually came from off market, because it's the conversation I've had. So one came from the guy from the natural gas company came in, and he was working on something, and I was like, oh yeah, and we're just chatting, and then he said, oh yeah, I have a couple properties and like 15 minutes away. I was like, really? And the conversation went on, and I bought one of the three. The other's an agent that I worked with. The house next door came on the market, and he was the first person he called. So it's getting the consistent push of information out there it helps, but talking to people and making sure you have the right contacts definitely helps to have the deals come when you're not really working to get them.
And you brought up a good point. Real estate agents, we tend to think real estate agents only do on-market deals. It's not true. Here's the thing: they're not going to take on those really like cheap properties. They're not going to make a whole lot for what they're doing. Sometimes the bank isn't going to finance it. So don't count them out. And again, win-win situation. Hey, you bring me these potential off-market deals. I'll be sure to think of you when I get a response from my ad, and it's not a good property for me. This is one that should be on the market. I'm going to send them your way. Yeah. So you really can create a relationship with them. They could help give you access to the MLS to just definitely bring something to the table as well. Title companies, they know, they know which house just fell through for whatever reason, and you get to find that black swan right off the bat and save yourself some time and money. So just some things to consider.
Now, one thing back to what you were talking about earlier, you mentioned impacting the community. I'm just wondering your approach, because I know they have different, I forgot what it's called, but it's probably on the zoning page where they actually highlight what they plan to do from a development standpoint. And it's written out years ahead, right? So I'm wondering, are you looking at that, or are you looking at opportunity zones within your area to figure out where to, like, how do you have the maximum impact? Like, do you have a plan around that?
Not really. My town is a one stoplight town. So actually, let me see if I can find this. I'll tell you what I'm doing to really hone in on, I gotta find it. Where did I put you? To really hone in on my market and, oh, I put it over here. And make sure that I know where these opportunities are so that I can buy them up and improve them. So I have this really cool thing. I call it my I Love Me binder. We have those at PCS. And so I went on the public records and I looked at every street and I'm like, I'm going to find those multifamilies. I'm not opposed to single family, but that's where the money's at. And that also tells me who are the investors. And so I went through every street and I found all the multifamilies, and then I printed out their reports. So these reports, this is kind of awkward, I'm sorry. These reports will tell you, it'll show you a picture of it, the property, it'll tell you like when it was last bought, how much it was bought for, so you can kind of calculate what they may or may not owe on the home. You can see who the owner is, where they live, and it gives you so much information, the square footage and everything. So I've got every multifamily in that town listed out. And I also know who the big landlord owners are in the area. And guess who I am being proactive in creating relationships with now? Those landlords, because they may not be selling now, but at some point they will be. I'm the new blood in town, and I want them to be thinking of me when it comes time. That way I can take these houses that have been neglected for so long and turn them around. Again, I'm mentoring somebody else who's interested in doing this. I have to get it out of my own way and be willing to bring in maybe some partnerships or other people outside of my town to create an even bigger impact there. But yeah, it's all a work in progress. And I think it's important to realize like this has to be bigger than ourselves.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome.
I also, one thing I've considered and looked into, unfortunately it came to a halt, was buying some land. There was a convenience store that burnt down, and it's been the eyesore in the middle of the town for a decade now. So I reached out to the owner, who actually happened to just inherit it. And I was like, hey, can I, here's my plan. I want to create a playground, because so many people in this town, they have nothing else to do, the teenagers, and they get into trouble, like with drugs. It's a thing there. And I was like, if I can create one specifically geared towards teens, because we do have one at this elementary school, give them something to do, then I think that'd be great. And I also would build it in my mentor's honor. So I'm pretty sure I can fundraise this easily. And so that's something I looked into. However, I didn't want to do this good deed and then be liable for it.
Yeah.
So I went to the town. I was like, here's what I want to do. Will you take on that liability? And maintenance would be nice too. And there's just like liability, no way. So another thing I've looked into is maybe using that is like by the community center to do raised bed gardens. That would give them something to do, but also feed a lot of the people in the town, because a lot of them are living in poverty as well. So those are some things that I've considered. There's so many ways that we can utilize real estate and our knowledge to have an impact in that way. So I was able to use my knowledge to see that the person who just inherited it didn't just pay his taxes. And so does he really care about this? So I was able to leverage that in our conversation too.
Awesome.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Cindy. I guess you answer all the questions then.
I guess so.
Yeah. And thank you so much for all the knowledge that you provided, and the great stories as well, and the inspiration that you have done for so many people, spouses, women. Just thank you, and continue to inspire people. So I'm going to just say sign off. Just thank you to everyone. We'll be going on YouTube tonight. So see you guys later.